Thank you so much.
You're
Okay.
welcome. Yeah.
Are you ready? Can
Yeah,
we, okay.
I think so, yeah.
All right.
I started, go ahead.
Okay, very good. Today we at the Henry Carter Hall Library, I have the honor and privilege of interviewing Bob Langston, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
And I'm just anxious to hear your story of your
Okay.
service and your life. And where did you grow up, Bob?
I grew up in Morris, Connecticut.
Okay,
It's up in Litchfield County.
all right.
Okay.
And were you drafted or did you?
No, I enlisted
is
at
it-
17.
You enlisted at, oh my goodness, okay. And so where did you do basic?
Basic was in Fort Dix.
Okay.
Interesting experience.
First time away from home?
No,
Okay.
no, but you know, at 17, you're kind of you got the chips on your shoulders. You
Yeah.
know, basic training takes you away.
Okay, so you were there like for 8 weeks?
8 weeks. Actually, when I completed basic, my orders didn't come down, so I was stuck there for 3 extra weeks.
Okay, and so what did they do with you?
It just made me do all kinds of odds and ends. You know?
Okay.
The fun part was when you first come into the service, they you know, they yell at you when you get off the bus and things like that. You know, it's all to get you sort of molded into, you know. What basic training does is mold you into a unit. In
Okay.
other words, you're not an individual anymore. In other words, if you screw up, your whole platoon pays for the problem. So if you screw up, everybody does 50 push-ups
Yeah, and they're
or
not happy with you.
does a GI party, you know, nobody's happy with you. So, you know, you learn not to screw up. So it molds you into, you know, your unit. One person depends on the other.
And were you deployed together with the people that you were in basic with?
No.
No, okay.
The ironic thing was I joined the Army with a high school buddy. And we signed up under what was called the buddy plan. So we were supposed to go through basic training and advanced individual training together in the
Yeah.
same platoon, same company, everything. Well, we got the basic after 24 hours. That's the last I saw him.
Really? Oh my goodness.
He was in one platoon, I was in another
Oh.
platoon. When he graduated basic, he went to AIT right away. I stayed behind for 3 weeks. You know, I haven't seen him in 45.
Oh my
You know.
What year was this when you entered?
I joined in 1967.
67. Okay, now where did you go for advanced
I
training?
went to Fort Belvoir, Virginia.
Okay,
I trained to be a heavy equipment mechanic. That was a 13-week course. I signed up to be a heavy equipment operator, but when I got to the school and told we had some National Guard sergeants there taking the course too, and I said I wanted to transfer because I didn't want to be a mechanic, I wanted to be an operator. And he said, this MOS is such a needed MOS that when you graduate from this course, you go from E1 to E4.
oh,
So I advanced 3 ranks in 13 weeks.
Oh
So I
my
said-
goodness, this is good, this is good,
So-
that was a smart, yeah.
So, let me see, Fort Belvoir is interesting because we were about a half an hour bus ride from Washington DC. So I got to go to Washington DC every weekend.
Oh, nice.
So I saw a lot of things, and it was interesting because it was a time that the Poor People's March was happening in Washington DC. So I got to see all on the what is it called? It's not the green.
On the
but
mall.
On the
Yeah,
mall.
yeah.
You know, they had the cardboard tent houses and all that.
Right,
You know,
right.
and it was right around the time Martin Luther King was killed too, because they had the riots, and we were put on alert to go into town if needed. We weren't called in, fortunately, but so it was interesting
Yeah.
times then too.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so then after those 13 weeks, were you sent to Vietnam?
No, I went sent to Fort McClellan, Alabama.
Okay.
Spent about 8 months there. never worked on heavy equipment. It was a transportation company. I worked on trucks all the time.
Okay, yeah.
And then I was sent to Vietnam March '69 to
Okay.
March of '70.
Okay.
I worked as a heavy equipment mechanic. I did a couple duty stations. I was stationed at a rock quarry my first month in country, and then I got transferred from A company to D company, 92nd Engineers, which was a construction company. I worked in a motor pool for 3 or 4 months, and I got bored. Just, it's the same thing every day.
Yeah.
So I asked to become a dump truck driver, and that's when I got to go out in the field.
Oh.
And,
And where in country were you?
we were down, first base I was at was called Langston North. It was butted a base called Bearcat. Bearcat was a big base that had Thai, Army, Australian Army, American Army. We were a small little base that abutted it. And then I went up to Lai K. That was where the Big Red 1 base was. And then my last couple months in country, we were in Saigon, working around the Saigon River. What we did was build roads and bridges out in the boonies.
Wow, wow. I mean, what was that like? I mean, were you cutting through brush, or did you come in after had taken?
The real brush cutters were the guys who built bases.
Okay.
What we did was take basically cart paths, because they had ox, water buffaloes, and they have an ox cart. And this was to go from one village to a more main road. There'd be a cart path for 8-10 miles. Well, what we did was take and make that into a more passable road. So it was interesting. We built bridges, a couple places around Saigon. We built a bridge, it finished it, and the next day we came back and it was blown up.
Oh my goodness! Oh,
things like that happen quite often.
And were you under fire?
The only almost under fire experience I had was I was on guard duty at Langston North one night, and somewhere between midnight and 3 a.m., because we have guard duty shifts.
Yeah.
You go on guard duty at 6 p.m. and you go to 6 a.m. And usually they break down, there's 3 men on a post, and we break it down into 9 to 12, 12 to 3, and 3 to 6. I had the 9 to 12 shift that night, and somewhere between midnight and 3 a.m., I woke up to a firefight going on. That kind of scared me.
Yeah.
You ever hear the feeling, my heart sunk to my stomach?
That was
That
it.
was it, yeah.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
It was further down the base, so it didn't come down our area. So, we had trucks run over landmines when we were out in the field, so that was always there. When we first started one cart path, the bulldozer pushed up an unexploded artillery shell, which could have gone off,
Yeah.
So, I had some. Wasn't an
Yeah,
actual
yeah,
infantryman
yeah.
combat, but I had some pretty hairy experiences.
Yeah. What about the guys you served with? Who were your buddies? What were?
I had a guy named Willie and a gentleman we called Stanley. But I found out after a couple of months his real name was Paul. They nicknamed him because he looked like somebody from a cartoon character, I guess.
All right.
But not going over in as a unit. When I flew over to the country, I was alone. I got on a jet with a couple hundred other GIs or whatever it was, but I didn't know anybody. And a lot of the guys I've talked to, like if they were in the Marines, they went over a unit, and they stayed with that unit. And my units were, people were always coming and going, because, everybody had a year's time there. So, you catch guys who had 9 months left, 3 months left, so you were always rotating with friends. So you never really got to be terribly close to anybody, you know, which,
Yeah, interesting.
you know, there's still people I've found through military.com and other websites that I still stay in touch with, you know,
Good.
that I've contacted with them, you know. It's, you create a bond with the guys that you served with, and it never goes away.
Yeah.
You never lose that bond. There's always that, you know, I had your back, you had
Yeah.
my back kind of thing, and, you know, we're brothers forever kind of
Yes,
thing, you know?
yes, yeah. Did you have R&R during your year?
Oh, R&R, yes.
Where'd you go?
I went to Australia.
You did,
I
okay.
was one of the fortunate ones that got to Australia.
What were your impressions?
Oh, I loved Australia. It was a great place. Let me see, it was 1970 I went over there. And, you know, the band shell was just being built over there, and I got to see that. One unique experience I had was, I always liked apples. Growing up in Connecticut, I was near apple farms and all that. And every apple I ate over there in Vietnam tasted like sand and gritty. Because, you know, they're stored and then they're shipped on container ships, you know, and it takes 4 to 6 weeks to get over there, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And by the time they come over, they're really not fresh anymore, you know? And I went to the zoo in Australia and I said, I'm gonna buy an apple when I was there. And I bought it and I bit into it, and it was the most heavenly thing I had ever bitten into.
Oh, wonderful, oh my
You know, it
goodness.
was just so refreshing to taste a fresh apple, you know?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's great.
I bought a pair of bell-bottom pants over there. I still have them today.
You do very,
I
oh.
can't fit them anymore.
You were styling, I tell you. Oh, that's great, that's great.
So that was an interesting experience. I'd like to go back there someday. I don't think I could afford to, but, you know, it was there. The amazing thing was they're very open and gregarious people in Australia. You know, I'd walk into, you know, a bar and just sit down and, hey Yank, how's it going? And they start talking to you. You know.
And that's great,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Good. All right, what was it like when you came home? Was it a hard adjustment, a regular adjustment? Did you go back to your hometown?
Yes, I did.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay.
I didn't stay very long. My last duty station, when I came back from Vietnam, I had about 8 months left to
Okay.
go. So my last 7 months, I was in Alabama again. I met a guy there who was from Connecticut, and he's from Middletown, and he got out a few months before me, and when I got out, I hooked up with him, and that's how I met my wife. I
Oh,
moved to
nice.
Middletown.
Oh, okay, good,
And,
good.
so I didn't stay in Morris that long. Like I said, I moved to Middletown with another Army buddy. And, you know, we weren't well received when we came home, you know? I mean, it was like, I didn't want anybody to know that I came back from Vietnam, you know? Because we were, you know, people were getting, so I had some pretty bad experiences from people back here, you know? But I've found since, it took me a long time to get involved with anything to do with the military. It wasn't until I moved to Clinton.
Okay, and then you,
My real estate agent was a Vietnam vet and was at the VFW and talked me into joining the VFW here after, you know, some 40 some odd years. Since I've gotten involved with that, I've done various activities around the town through the VSW, and people are much more appreciative today, you know. The one thing that gives me a sense of honor is the guys I meet today that come back from Afghanistan and Iraq are appreciative that what we went through, nobody else will have to go through.
yeah.
You know, so that,
That's,
you know, I feel honorable that
Right.
we were able to do that. As much as we, you know, put up with what we did when we came home, no other generation will
That's
have
gonna
to,
happen.
you
Good.
know, it's not the warriors. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
So,
I mean, oh, that's, when people say to you, thank you for your service, how do you feel when when folks thank you?
I feel very appreciative that people now respect and honor the service that I did for my country back then. It's not getting it when you come home, it's, a long time later
Yeah.
to hear it, it makes you really appreciate it,
This is good. Well, what's the best story that you have from your time in the service?
Probably the best time was when I was in Australia. Going to Australia and meeting all the interesting people, and it's just, you get to see different parts of the world, you know? When I got to Vietnam, and I started seeing what we were doing, I felt proud that we were there trying to help the Vietnamese people,
You probably had a fair amount of contact with Vietnamese people in terms of building roads and bridges and so on.
Some.
Yeah.
Most of it was through about halfway through my tour, Nixon came into office and he started the Vietnamization program, which was we were going to train the Vietnamese to take over our duties.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to meet a
Okay.
lot of the people, because they'd bring in the South Vietnamese soldiers
Okay.
to our base, and we trained them in
Okay.
what we were doing. So that's how I got to know the Vietnamese people. Plus, we had workers on the base, we had, we called them hooch girls. They'd come in and do our laundry and,
Yeah.
all that stuff, they clean the hooch and wash your clothes. And I was a mechanic for quite a while, so my clothes were quite dirty.
You needed it, yeah.
The way I felt sorry for them, because I'd be greased from here to here, and I come back the next day and the clothes were nice and clean.
So this is good. This is good. Now, did you do that? Did you work as a mechanic when you got home? Did the Army train? Did you use your Army training for your career?
I tried to, but the attitude when I came back was they didn't like military personnel. So a lot of places I went to, they said, no, we can't use your services, or we don't take trainees.
Wow.
I had 3 years experience in what I was
Yeah.
doing. They said, well, you'd have to train on our stuff. What's the difference, I was a mechanic.
Yeah.
So it had to do with the attitude of, people didn't like Vietnam veterans at the time. So it was hard to find jobs
Yeah.
back then. If you told people, you
Yeah.
came from the military, The guy I joined the service with told me when he came back from Vietnam, he went to our high school, and the principal came out and told him to leave the building. He was a baby killer.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my.
He related the story to me a couple of years ago. He he said he went very angry, and the police had to come and remove him from the building. But how can you imagine? This guy was pretty seriously wounded over there. He was medevac back to the United States, and when he went back to his school, he was told by the principal that, we don't want you here, baby kills.
Oh, it's.
So those are some of the things we had to deal with when we came back. But you kind of, people grow past that.
And it's, I think, I'm glad you're involved with the commemoration of 50 years, because there's a lot, I bet there's not a lot of understanding, unless you lived through it,
Right.
about what it was like
Right.
to come home.
Yes, yeah. I talked to a lot of guys who were there in the early 60s, and the people out there in the late 60s and early 70s before it ended. And there was a difference between the guys who were coming back in 66, 67. They weren't as badly received as we were after 68 on,
Yeah, it was tumultuous times. Do you get a sense, Have you talked to any students, high school age I mean, that students now have a sense of the history of the Vietnam War?
I haven't been able to talk to a lot of
Right.
students, being on the 50th commemoration committee. It goes on until 2015,
Oh.
so there's some programs that they have that I want to get involved with,
Great.
talking to high school students about it, you know, because it's important to reflect back on what happened then and how to prevent that from happening again, you know?
Yes. Oh. All right, is there anything that you would love civilians to understand about what it was like to be in a war?
That unless you've been there, you cannot understand what it's like to live under that constant pressure of waking up every morning thinking, is today the day that I'm not gonna be here anymore, you know? And that's, you're there 365 days, well, not 360, because you have the 7-day R&R, but, you know, it's a constant worry on your mind that something could happen today.
And you're like 19 years old.
Yes, yeah.
You know? Yikes, yeah.
You know, you push it to the back of your mind, but it's always there. I noticed when I came back home that a lot of things that I did over there were done with a certain amount of consciousness that something could happen at any time. And when you come back home, something will make you realize that I don't have that pressure anymore, you know?
And that's, yeah.
Yeah, that's, you know, kind of a relief.
Yeah, I would say so, I would say so. Oh, this is good. Okay, I thank you so much for
You're welcome.
coming in.
Thank you for doing this.
This is great, and we want to invite you to a reception on the